Why can Israel repeatedly start wars across the Middle East and remain seemingly invincible? 3 deadly factors lie behind this. In recent years, Israel has fought and finished wars in Gaza and Lebanon. After fighting Lebanon, then Syria, and then Iran, now once again we've seen strikes aimed at Doha, Qatar's capital. Qatar is a country whose ruler wears a cloth on his head and is paid for oil. Qatar foolishly thinks that by paying the United States more than $50 billion a year, it can ensure lasting peace. But who doesn't know the US and Israel wear the same pants? Perhaps this time, the bombing of Qatar's capital by Israel had America's hand behind it. That said, Qatar's military strength is not as weak as some assume. Its Air Force has 36 F-15QA fighters imported from the US, 24 Rafale fighters from France, and 36 Eurofighter Typhoons, a total of about 108 combat aircraft. It also fields 10 Patriot air defense battery sets, THAAD anti-missile systems, and a dozen other air defense systems. If Qatar chose to fight militarily, its air force could fully contest Israel, and that is the fatal element. Although Qatar has plenty of equipment, pilot training levels are limited, and Doha has almost no real combat experience. They spend their days in wealth and comfort, dreaming the US will always back them. But harsh reality will teach them that money alone cannot substitute for military preparedness. One day, they may be pressed by predators. On the other hand, since its founding, the State of Israel has essentially been on a war footing. It has won the last 5 major wars in the region, and even Iran, which has relatively strong military power, avoids direct confrontation when Israel decides to act. Today in the Middle East, only the Houthis fight Israel fiercely. However, the Houthis alone cannot face 2 great powers, Israel and the United States. A few days ago, Israel also struck several senior Houthi commanders. The second deadly factor is that the Arab world is far from united. There are roughly 450 million Arabs in the Middle East, versus only about 7.2 million Israeli Jews. Arabs vastly outnumber Israeli Jews, yet for years they have watched Israel repeatedly bomb them. First the massacres in Palestine, then intervention in Syria's civil war, then Lebanon, the Houthis, Iran, and now strikes linked to Qatar. If this pattern continues, Saudi Arabia could be next. If Arab states were even somewhat unified militarily, Israel would not be so arrogant. Some will argue the US supports Israel, but when a nation is occupied and people are being slaughtered, whose backing matters most? In the Korean War, the US was powerful, yet our volunteers with rice and rifles pushed it back. Today, many Middle Eastern countries are economically and militarily stronger and better placed than Korea was then, but the lack of unity in the Arab world remains decisive. The final major issue is regional insecurity. Put simply, Israel's Jewish population is very small, so it fights repeatedly because it fears that if the Arabs are allowed to grow stronger and unify, Israel itself could be eradicated. Israel knows its territory is tiny, roughly 25,000 square kilometers, and it lacks strategic depth. Any border clash can threaten its major cities. Therefore, Israel believes it must wage continual wars, even carrying out large-scale, brutal strikes to secure its place in the region. Otherwise, if one day a capable leader defeated it, Israel could be wiped from the map. That is why Israel often targets key regional figures with airstrikes.